This is one of the hardest videos I have ever had to record, and I need you to stay with me.
Because what I am about to tell you is something I watched go wrong for years, and nobody ever said it plainly. Not in a classroom, not in a training, not in any public information campaign, and certainly not from someone who spent time on the other side of that patrol car window. I am not here to make you afraid of police. I want to say that clearly before anything else. But I am also not going to pretend that most people know how to handle these moments, because they do not. And the cost of not knowing is real. Here is the situation. You are driving at night, the road is quiet, then the lights come on behind you. Or you are walking to your car and an officer steps into your path. Or you are standing in your own hallway and there is a knock at the door. In every one of those moments, something shifts, your heart rate goes up, your hands move before you decide to move them, and your mouth opens, because silence feels wrong, because you want the moment to end, because you believe that the fastest way through is to cooperate fully and say whatever comes naturally.
That instinct is understandable, and it is exactly what creates the problem.
I watched this happen hundreds of times from the officer's side. A person would say something casual, an explanation, an apology, an answer to a question they did not have to answer, and that single sentence would change everything. Not because the person was guilty, not because they had done anything wrong, but because they did not know the difference between being cooperative and being exposed. Most people believe that being cooperative means talking freely. It does not. Everything you say becomes part of a record you cannot take back, and the record does not care about your intentions.
There are only 4 things a citizen ever needs to say during a police encounter. 4 phrases, 4 moments, and this is the system around them.
The people who know these 4 phrases, and who say them calmly with the right tone, at the right time, almost always come through these encounters with their rights intact and their record clean. The people who replace those 4 things with panic, over-explaining, or silence in the wrong moment, those are the stories that do not end well. I am going to give you all 4, but I need to give you the system around them first, because the phrases alone are not enough. The timing matters. The tone matters. Knowing which phrase goes in which moment matters. And knowing what to do when you feel like it is already too late matters more than any of the other 3. Subscribe right now if you have never heard this explained from the inside. This channel exists for exactly this moment.
4 phrases, 4 moments, 1 system, not tricks, not loopholes. The exact words that keep you safe and cooperative at the same time.
Let me start with the 3 conditions that make any police encounter dangerous before a single word is spoken. These conditions are not about guilt. They are about the situation you allow to form around you without realizing it.
The 3 conditions are not about what the officer does. They are about the situation you allow to form around you before you say a single word.
The first condition: you do not know whether the officer is making a request or giving a lawful order, and because you do not know, you treat everything as mandatory. Do you mind stepping out? And you step out before you process the question. Can I take a look inside? And your hand is already on the handle. Not because you had to, but because you did not know you had a choice, and once you move, once you open, once you step, the moment has already shifted. You have cooperated voluntarily with something that was never legally required, and that cooperation is now part of the record.
No clear reason, no stated basis, no moment where you understood what was happening. That is the first condition, and it starts before anyone speaks.
The second condition is simpler and more dangerous because it feels invisible. There is no documentation, no witness, no recording. The encounter exists only in the officer's notes and in your memory. And those 2 things are often very different by the time anyone reviews them. If something goes wrong, if a statement gets attributed to you that you do not believe you made, if the details of what was requested and what was consented to become disputed, you have nothing, no timestamp, no audio. The encounter is whatever the report says it was. The third condition is the one most people do not recognize until it is too late. You start talking to fill the discomfort. The silence after a question feels aggressive, so you answer. Then you add something extra. Then you explain the extra thing, and each sentence you add creates a new layer of record that was never required. Casual answers become statements. Statements become admissions. You were nervous. You wanted to be helpful. You thought it would be over faster if you just talked. And the moment you started talking freely, the encounter's shape changed. Not because you were guilty, but because you handed over information without understanding what you were handing. Now listen carefully. There are 3 protective actions that exist before you say a single phrase. Keep your hands visible, not in your pockets, not reaching for anything. On the wheel if you are in a car, at your sides if you are standing. This is not a tactic. It is the single most important physical signal in any encounter, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. Move slowly. Every movement faster than necessary creates uncertainty. Reach slowly for your license. Lower your window slowly. Turn your head slowly. You are removing any reason for the situation to accelerate before you have had a chance to think, and before you speak, before your hand moves, before you open anything, before you answer. Identify which of the 4 moments you are in. Are you being asked whether you are free to leave? Are you being asked to consent to a search? Are you being questioned about something specific? Or has the encounter already moved into something more serious? The phrase you use depends entirely on the moment you are in. One phrase in the wrong moment does not protect you. It creates confusion. The system only works when the phrase matches the moment.
3 conditions. No reason stated, no documentation in your favor, and you talk because silence feels dangerous. That is where the risk begins.
Now let me tell you what gets in the way. Because there are 3 specific pressure patterns that will try to push you past those actions before you are ready. The first pressure pattern is urgency. Just open it, step out now. Come on, don't make this hard. That language is designed to make you skip the phrase and comply before you process what is being asked. You hear the urgency and your body wants to respond immediately because compliance feels safe and slowing down feels like confrontation. But slowing down is not confrontation. Asking for a specific reason before you move is not obstruction. It is clarity, and it is allowed. The second pressure pattern is casual framing. I'm just asking. This is just routine. You're not in trouble. I just want to check something. This language makes the formal phrases feel unnecessary, like you would be rude or suspicious for using them. But the casualness of the framing does not change the legal nature of the request. A search is a search, whether the officer calls it routine or not. A question about your destination is still a question you may not be required to answer, regardless of how conversationally it is delivered. The third pressure pattern is silence and irritation. The officer goes quiet after you ask for a reason, or the officer sounds frustrated. And that frustration pulls at you. You want to fill it. You want to smooth it over. You want to explain that you are not trying to cause problems. So you start talking, giving information that was never requested, trying to make the tension disappear. Do not fill that silence. The silence is not evidence of guilt. It is a pause. Let it be a pause.
The first pressure pattern is urgency. The second is casual framing. The third is silence. Each one is designed to make you give up the phrase before you use it.
You are not trying to win against the officer. You are not trying to catch anyone in a mistake. You are not trying to create a case on the side of the road. You are trying to get home safely, with the clearest possible record of what happened and what you did and did not consent to. That is the only goal. Here is how the moment breaks down. The decision tree you need before you ever say the first phrase. You use the first phrase, said calmly, without moving. Officer, I want to cooperate. Am I being detained or am I free to go? If the officer gives you a specific, clear, lawful reason, you cooperate fully, calmly. You move slowly, announce your movements if needed, and you do not keep questioning. A clear reason is a clear reason. Do not turn clarity into a debate. Do not argue the law on the street. If a lawful command is clear, your priority is safety and calm compliance. If the officer gives a vague answer, routine procedure just because. Don't make this difficult. You do not argue. You use the follow-up phrase. I understand, officer. I am not trying to make this difficult. I am asking for the specific reason so I can cooperate correctly, said once, said calmly. Then you stop. If the officer becomes irritated, you do not mirror the emotion. You go quieter, not louder. You do not debate. You repeat your last calm statement once if pressed, and then you stop. You prioritize your physical safety above every other consideration. The record is built after the encounter, not during it.
Now I need to give you the decision tree, because how you respond depends entirely on what comes back after your very first phrase.
So now, you have the conditions, the actions, the pressure patterns, and the decision tree. Let me give you the 4 phrases themselves. The first phrase, the one you use when the encounter begins before anything else, is this. Officer, I want to cooperate. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Say it once. Do not move. Do not add anything. That phrase does one thing and one thing only. It establishes whether the encounter is voluntary or legally compelled. You are not challenging the officer. You are asking a clear, respectful question that changes automatic movement into stated reason. I know what you may be thinking. That is it? That's short? Yes, exactly. That is why it works. Short phrases are the only phrases that survive pressure. Long explanations fall apart. If the search question comes, "Mind if I take a look? Can I check the trunk?" That is the second moment. The second phrase is, "I do not consent to a search, but I will not interfere." Say it without attitude. Do not add "because I know my rights." That addition turns a legal statement into a confrontation. The phrase alone creates the record. The officer knows your position. You have not obstructed. You have stated calmly what you do and do not agree to. If the questioning goes deeper, where you are coming from, where you are going, who you know, that is the third moment, the third phrase. "Officer, I want to answer correctly. Am I required to answer that? Or am I free to remain silent?" This is the phrase most people never use because they do not know they are allowed to. They answer because the question sounds routine. They answer because silence feels like guilt. But silence is not guilt. Silence is a right. If the encounter escalates, if you are told you are under arrest, that is the fourth moment. The fourth phrase, "I understand. I am not resisting. I would like to speak with an attorney before I say anything further." After that phrase, you stop talking. You have stated your position. You have not resisted, and you have preserved your right to counsel. The conversation is over until that right is honored. If you know someone who needs to hear this before the moment arrives, share this right now. That is why this channel exists.
4 phrases, 4 moments, 1 system. Now let me show you the 3 mistakes that can collapse all of it, because the phrase is only as strong as the delivery.
Mistake 1. Saying the right phrase with the wrong tone. This is where most people lose the protection without realizing it. "I do not consent to a search," said with irritation, with any edge in the voice, with any performance of defiance, converts a legal statement into a confrontation. The words are correct. The delivery destroys them. What the phrase sounds like matters as much as what it says. The tone must match the words. Calm language delivered calmly. That is the whole instruction. Mistake 2, talking after the phrase. The phrase creates a pause, and that pause is the phrase doing exactly what it was designed to do. Then you fill it, you add an explanation, you clarify something nobody asked you to clarify. You make a small comment to lighten the moment, and the moment you do that, you have collapsed the pause. After the phrase, you stop. Not rudely, not dramatically, you simply stop. The silence is not a problem. The silence is the phrase completing its work. Mistake 3. Using the wrong phrase for the wrong moment. These 4 phrases are not interchangeable. Asking, "Am I being detained or free to go?" after you have already been told you are under arrest does not help. It creates confusion and signals non-compliance. The system only works when you identify the moment first, then select the phrase that belongs to it. That is why the decision tree matters. That is why you need the map before the encounter, not during it.
Now here is the part most people do not expect. What if it is already too late? What if you already answered, already opened, already said yes?
What if you already answered too many questions? What if you already said yes to the search before you remembered you had a choice? What if the officer already entered, already found something, already heard something you said in the first 30 seconds before any of this reached you? Do not panic. Do not start explaining the mistake. Do not try to unsay what you said, because you cannot, and the attempt creates new problems. Do not reach for anything. Do not touch anything. Do not start inventing a story. None of that helps. Here is what you do. You stop providing new information immediately. Not with drama, not with a speech. You simply stop. If you are asked again, if the officer returns to a question you already answered, you say calmly, "I have already said what I know. I would like to speak with an attorney before I say anything further." That does not erase what happened, but it stops the accumulation. After the encounter, when you are safe, when you are alone, you write everything down. The exact words that were used, the sequence of what happened, the badge number, if you saw it, the time, the location. Any witnesses present. Write it while it is still precise in your memory, because memory degrades faster than people realize. And the written record you create in the next hour may be the most important document in whatever comes next. Then you consult a legal professional, not to fight, but to understand what the record contains and what your options are. The mistake does not define the outcome. The mistake is the starting point. What you do next determines what the ending looks like. The phrase did not protect you in that moment, but the record you build after still can. Let me show you 2 versions of the same stop, so you can see what this looks like when it works, and what it looks like when you are already late. Scenario 1. It is past 11 at night. A 2-lane road, no other cars in either direction. The patrol lights come on behind you. You pull over completely, turn off the engine, put your hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel before the officer reaches your window. The officer approaches, flashlight across the interior. Do you know why I stopped you? You do not guess, you do not apologize. You do not say I wasn't speeding, a statement that enters a record before you understand what the record is about. You say hands visible, voice level, officer, I want to cooperate. Am I being detained or am I free to go? The officer states the reason, a taillight. You cooperate fully. You provide your license and registration slowly. You announce when you are reaching for them. You answer the questions that relate to the documentation. Then mind if I take a look in the back? You say, I do not consent to a search, but I will not interfere. No drama, no raised voices. The officer notes your position. The stop continues. You get home. Nothing was given away that did not need to be. No fight, no confrontation, and a clean record of what you did and did not agree to. Scenario 2. Same stop, same road, same night. But you already answered the first 3 questions before you remembered. You told the officer where you were coming from. You said you had not been drinking. You mentioned the friend's house. 3 answers you did not have to give, given because the questions sounded routine. Now the officer is asking about the passengers, the destination, the glove box. You stop. Hands still. Voice level. Officer, I want to answer correctly. Am I required to answer that or am I free to remain silent? The officer sharpens. Just answer the question. You do not argue. You do not explain why you are asking. You say, I understand. I am not resisting. I would like to speak with an attorney before I say anything further. And then you stop. It was not a perfect execution. The first 3 answers went in before the system engaged. But the last phrase still drew a line, still created a record of where the cooperation ended and where the right to counsel began. Imperfect is not the same as lost. Late is not the same as too late.
I want to be clear before we close, because I know how this can sound to some people watching right now.
Using these phrases is not disrespect toward officers. Knowing what you are and are not required to say is not hostility. A calm citizen asking a legitimate question before consenting to something is not a problem for an officer who can explain what they are doing. These phrases were not designed to create conflict. They were designed to create clarity, and clarity in most encounters is what prevents conflict from happening in the first place. An officer who gives a specific and clear reason has done their job. A citizen who responds to that reason with calm, full cooperation has done theirs. Rights awareness does not inflame a well-managed encounter. It stabilizes it. Let me close with the recap. 4 phrases. 4 moments, 1 system. The first phrase, officer, I want to cooperate. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Use it when the encounter begins, before you move, before you explain, before you guess. The second phrase, I do not consent to a search, but I will not interfere. Use it when a search is requested, no additions. The third phrase, officer, I want to answer correctly. Am I required to answer that or am I free to remain silent? Use it when the questioning goes beyond what you are legally required to provide. The fourth phrase, I understand. I am not resisting. I would like to speak with an attorney before I say anything further. Use it when the encounter moves into something serious. If the officer gives a clear reason, cooperate fully and stop questioning. If the officer gives a vague answer, use the follow-up. I understand, officer. I am not trying to make this difficult. I am asking so I can cooperate correctly. If the officer becomes irritated, go quieter, not louder, and prioritize your physical safety above everything. 3 mistakes to avoid: wrong tone, talking after the phrase, wrong phrase for the wrong moment. If it is already too late, stop providing new information, document everything afterward. Consult a legal professional before the details fade. If someone you care about drives alone at night and does not know these 4 phrases, send this to them right now, before it happens again, before the lights come on and they are standing in that moment without anything to hold on to. Comment below which of the 4 phrases you did not know before today. That is the one that matters most for you right now. And if you have been through a stop and wish you had known this, write what happened after the first question. Those stories are why this channel exists.
These 4 phrases exist for one reason only, so that when the moment arrives, you are not handing over more than you have to out of panic or confusion.
That is the truth. This is not advanced legal strategy. This is not a loophole. This is 4 plain sentences that most people never learn, and the absence of that knowledge is something I watched cost people real things.
I said this was one of the hardest videos to record, not because it is complicated, because it is simple, and nobody was saying it plainly.
Not inconvenience, real consequences, for things they did not have to give away. The phrases are not weapons. They are the difference between panic and presence in the one moment where panic makes most people give away more than they ever intended to. I am not telling you this to make you afraid of police. I am telling you this because I have seen what happens when good people do not know what to say, and I could not keep watching that without saying something.